Dr. Mindy here, and on this video, we're going to talk about the most common podcast question I'm getting these days. And that is fasting calorie restriction? And what's the difference between calorie restriction and fasting? So if you're confused on that, if you're still counting calories, you're not really ready to let go of the calorie counting, or you just want to understand what's the difference? Calorie restriction, time restriction, what are we dealing with here? This is the video for you. So welcome to my channel. If you're new, I just would encourage you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And you came at a good time because I'm reading from my new book, Fast Like a Girl. It's going to be out at the end of December, depending on when you're listening to this. Pre-orders are out now. Please go pre-order it. Let's send a message to every bookstore, to every outlet, letting them know that women want this book. So super happy to be on this journey with you. So welcome.
Pioneer in the fasting
Do a long fast one day, your blood sugar going up and down.
We're in it together.
Okay, this is a really common one I'm getting right now, so I really wanted to do a video on it. Let's be very clear. The fasting that I teach here on this channel, the fasting that I talk about 83,000 words in here, is not calorie restriction. It is time restriction. And the reason that this is important is when you dive in and you look at things like a lot of the criticism on fasting comes from people looking at calorie restriction research. I have looked at so much fasting research in the 10 years I've been bringing fasting to you all here on YouTube. And I will tell you that when I bring you a fasting research article and all the research that's in this book, it's not calorie restriction, it is time restriction. So what I'm encouraging you all to do is to make sure that we start to mimic our primal ancestors. This is how our genes, our genetic expression works best. When we eat our food in a condensed period of time, leaving more time for the body to repair and rest. In calorie restriction, what you're doing is you're actually starting to just eat less throughout the day. It's the hardest way to lose weight. You can lose weight, but over time, it's very difficult to sustain a calorie restriction diet. And as Dr. Jason Fung taught us, and many of you have experienced, that diets fail because calorie restriction changes your set point. So if you've been stuck in that dieting calorie restriction culture, I want to tell you two things. First, I wrote a whole chapter for you. I'm really excited about this because this was like the most liberating chapter for me and I love the way, like when I sat down to map this out with my editor, I was like, no, this is the first chapter we're doing because we need to break the paradigm of dieting. And the dieting paradigm says calorie restriction is how you lose weight. That's a huge myth. So I wrote a whole chapter, it's called It's Not Your Fault, because it's not your fault. So if you have been dieting, you have been calorie counting, and maybe you've gotten some good results, but then all of a sudden it stopped working for you, I'm going to explain why. And in here, in the book, I'm not going to read all of them, I talk about the failed 5 reasons that diets don't work. And calorie restriction is one of them. So my whole goal with this book is to get you off of the calorie restriction train. So we have to start this discussion by breaking down the failed 5. What are the 5 reasons that your body is not succeeding with your past diets? And calorie restriction is one of them. Okay, so now I'm gonna say, being a former calorie counter, I feel like I've done every diet out there. Many of you may not even know this, that in my 20s, in my teens, I carried 30, 40 extra pounds around with me. I was a competitive athlete and I still carried all that extra weight around because I was dieting. I was doing these failed 5 over and over and over again. and it was causing me to gain weight. So if you've failed at other diets, please get the book and make sure you dive into the failed 5 and you make sure you're not reproducing those. Now, with calorie restriction, we change our set point, our metabolic set point, and it sets us up for failure. With time restriction, all we're doing is we're saying we're going to take all our food and compress it into a period of so many hours. So in Fast Like a Girl, I give you 6 different length fasts to time to your hormones. So when you dive into the book, what I'm going to show you is in each one of these length fasts, I give you the reason you would want to do these length fasts. So if we start with the first length, intermittent fasting, in the book I talk intermittent fasting, I gave you a range of somewhere between 12 to 16 hours. You've probably also heard me say 13 to 15 hours. So I tried to give ranges for different fasters. But what that means is you need to go 12 to 16 hours without your blood sugar rising. So that's important because you will stay in that fasted state and you are doing time restriction eating when your blood sugar is not rising. In fact, it's dipping down for anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. In that window, as your blood sugar dips, your body goes and accesses a different energy source. And this is called your ketogenic fat burning energy source. So in calorie restriction, we never get that dip down into the lower blood sugar to tell the body to go burn fat. We just have less calories in and we hope that we have more calorie output and that there's a negative between those two. That will give us a temporary weight loss result, but it will change our set point and we will never be able to sustain that. In time restriction, what we're doing is we're bringing your blood sugar down so you can go over to your fat burner system. So at that 12 to 16 hour mark, that's usually somewhere in that intermittent fasting range that we see the blood sugar dip so you can train your body to go burn fat. Now, the longer you go, this is why I put 6 different level fasts in there. And this was a really important concept to me when I pitched this book to the publishers. And thank you to Hay House for really seeing the nuance of this book and what I wanted to do with this book. I'm so grateful for them seeing the mission and how all the things I wanted to put in here for you. And one of the things I really wanted to do was show you the 6 different length fasts. So if you're looking at mastering time restriction, know that once you hit that 12-hour mark, now we're over in fat burning. Body is starting to burn energy from fat. You're losing weight. You're bringing inflammation down. You hit that 17-hour mark. Now the body's repairing itself. It's going into a state of autophagy and it's going into repair itself. You hit that 24-hour mark of time restriction eating. Now your whole gut is repairing. When you go 36 hours of what I call the fat burner reset of fasting, now you're really asking your body, go find the fat that it needed to burn years ago. So 48 hours, you're resetting your dopamine system, and 72 hours, you're resetting your immune system. So it's in the time restriction that healing happens. And the longer you go in a fasted state, the more healing that will happen for you. And I mapped it all in here specifically to your hormonal needs. So please know that I feel your pain when you've been holding on to calories as your guiding mark. If you feel like you've been watching calories for a long period of time and you don't know how to let go of that, what I want to encourage you to do is you really get a blood sugar reader. We like Keto Mojo, we like NutriSense. I'll leave links for those in the notes here. Those are 2 great blood sugar readers so that you can start to see what your blood sugar is doing in this time restricted period. So with calorie restriction, you could tell me, hey, we could run into each other somewhere in the street and you could be like, hey, so my output of calories was 2,000 and now I've only had brought in 1,500, so I'm at a deficit of 500 calories every single day. and that was working for a while and now it's not working, my answer would be, yeah, that's the problem, is it changed your set point. So you have to always keep that 2,000 output and that 1,500 input. You always have to have that 500 deficit day after day after day to be able to lose weight. In time restriction, it doesn't work like that. What happens in time restriction is we're able to dip into a 16-hour fast and we burn fat. And then we can go back to eating food again. And then maybe 2 days later, we dip into a 24-hour fast and we go in and we work on burning more fat. And then we go back to food. You're not changing any set point. You're not changing your metabolism. You're using this really cool fat burner system by time restricted eating. You're using this system and you're tapping into it to burn more fat. And then you're coming back to food. So I hope that makes sense. Again, this book is going to change so many of your lives. It's going to answer so many of your questions. So I'm super grateful for those of you that have pre-ordered it. And I want to share a really cool YouTube comment here that was brought to my attention and is why I do what I do. So it's from Truthful22. And if you have a great fasting story, by the way, put it in the comments and I'll read it on one of these videos because I just love how much this is changing your lives. But listen to what Truthful22 said, because this is why I wrote Fast Like a Girl. This is exactly why I poured my heart and soul into this book. This is what she said. She said, I love your videos. You've changed my life. I appreciate that. I really need to fix my hormones since I have been doing too much fasting every single day and strict keto and not respecting my hormones. If that's you, if you've come to my channel, you've come to my teachings because you were fasting and your hormones went off, put it in the comments. And what she went on to say is that Dr. Mindy, this is funny. So she's now learning to respect her hormones. She's learning the formula of fast like a girl. She's learning how to fast like a girl. But then this is what I love. This is what you guys can't miss. I hope you didn't check off of this video yet. It says, she said, Dr. Mindy, maybe you could create a fasting app. Thank you, Truthful22. I appreciate your request for that. I appreciate those of you who have asked me if we can make a fasting app. And here's what I want to tell you. We are making one. And in the back of Fast Like a Girl, there is a QR code for a free app that when the book comes out, the app will be there so you can scan the code and you can download the app. And we are working really hard right now. As I'm doing this video, it's almost November. We're working really hard to get this app out and ready for you. I saw a copy of it this morning. It is looking so beautiful. I have an incredible graphic designer, Marisol, who's doing an incredible job, and Ben, our app designer, is working late at night to get this app ready for the book launch. And in the app, you'll be able to go and click on the day of your cycle and be able to see what foods and what fasts you should be doing. It will coincide with the book, and I have big dreams for this app. I want you to be able to know everything about the day of your cycle. I want you to know what exercise you should do and what fast and what food and what supplements. I want you to know how to navigate your moods. I want you to understand your hormones on those days. This is how you take ownership over of your health again. So thank you, Truthful22, for bringing out the app question. And those of you who've asked, it's coming. And you will get access to it when you get the book. You're going to be able to download the QR code so you have access to the app. So thank you for pre-ordering. Thank you for your comments. And hopefully between this video and the intro chapter, it's not your fault. You'll understand that calorie restriction doesn't work, but time restriction does. So as always, I hope that helps.